You ever get the feeling like the universe is testing your patience just to see if it can break you one more time? That's the exact thought running through Darius Cole's head at 6:37 a.m. as he double-checks the address in his phone and tightens the one good knot he knows how to tie in his thrifted tie. The car smells like burnt coffee and old cologne. His cousin's Nissan squeaks every time it hits a bump, and the AC hasn't worked since Easter. But Darius doesn't care. He's dressed in his cleanest pair of khakis, one of the 3 button-downs he owns, and shoes he spent the night polishing with an old rag and spit. This was it. Kenslow Systems. A solar tech company with real benefits, a salary, maybe even the stability he hasn't had since things fell apart 2 years ago. Back when he still had a mechanic's license. Back before the layoff that wasn't supposed to happen. Back before one manager's lie cost him a career and a reputation he couldn't get back. This interview is not just another job. It's the last shot. He left an hour early just to be sure. The traffic gods seemed merciful for once, and Bakersfield's sky was doing that crisp blue thing it sometimes does before the smog rolls in. He'd hit the outskirts of town, just 20 minutes from the campus, when he saw it. A sleek black SUV, hood up, hazards blinking. It was parked awkwardly on the gravel shoulder, angled like someone had swerved in fast. And standing next to it, a woman. Mid-50s, maybe older. Sharp black blazer, one heel in her hand, the other still on. Her phone dangled in her hand uselessly, and she waved with the other as car after car flew by. No one stopped. Not out here. Darius's hands tightened on the wheel. Keep driving. You're on time. You're clean. You're prepped. You need this. Another 30 seconds and he'd be past her, no looking back. But then he caught her face, frustration and fear underneath a mask of composed elegance. The kind of face that wasn't used to being ignored. He sighed and flicked on his signal. The Nissan groaned as he pulled off the road. The gravel crunched under his well-worn shoes as he stepped out. You all right, ma'am? She looked up, clearly surprised someone had actually stopped. My car just died, she said, brushing windblown hair from her face. I don't even know what happened. The dash lit up like Christmas, then nothing. My phone has 1 bar and 0 data. No one's answering. Darius walked over, squinting under the hood. Mind if I take a look? Her eyes studied him for a beat too long. Then she stepped aside. If you know what you're looking for, be my guest. The engine compartment was spotless. The kind of car that probably came with a driver most days. But to Darius, it screamed alternator. Dead battery wouldn't kill the whole thing like that, and she wasn't out of gas. He looked at the connections, pulled out his flashlight, and jiggled a couple of lines. Yeah, alternator's shot. You won't get it to turn over again, not without a tow. She exhaled, tight-lipped. Unbelievable. I had a pitch in 40 minutes. Well, I'm heading into town, he offered. I can drop you at a service center, or wherever you need. Another pause. Her eyes flicked to the beat-up Nissan, then back to him. You sure? He nodded. Yeah, nobody should be stranded out here. She hesitated only a second longer, then grabbed her leather bag from the front seat and followed him. If you're enjoying the story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It won't cost you anything, but it will mean the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. The car ride was quiet at first. She introduced herself as CYN, no last name. Said she worked in consulting. He didn't pry. He didn't mention the interview. Didn't want her to feel rushed. Didn't want to say out loud that his future was dissolving with every tick of the dashboard clock. She broke the silence eventually. Most people wouldn't stop anymore. Not these days. He shrugged. Most people are in a rush to get somewhere. Doesn't mean it's the right rush. She smiled faintly. You always talk like that. Only before 9 a.m. They laughed, and for a brief moment, it didn't feel like a disaster. Just a strange detour on an ordinary day. By the time he dropped her off, at a downtown service garage with better lighting than most hospitals, he was already almost 20 minutes behind schedule. She turned to him before stepping out. You didn't have to stop. I know, he said simply. She nodded. Still, thank you. Then she was gone. Darius hit every red light on the way to the Kenslow Systems campus. By the time he screeched into the parking lot, it was 9:19 a.m. He sprinted across the plaza, palms sweating, shirt clinging to his back. Inside the glass lobby, he rushed to the desk. I had a 9 o'clock. Logistics planner, Darius Cole. The receptionist didn't even glance up. I'm sorry. The panel already left for another session. I don't have you on the backup list. I had confirmation. He held up his phone. I'm only 20 minutes late. I'm sorry, she repeated. They don't reschedule once the interview block's closed. Darius stood there for a moment, fists clenched against the marble countertop. He wanted to argue, to beg, to explain. But none of that would change the time on the clock. He turned and walked out slowly. Not even a callback. Not even a maybe. Later that night, as he sat on the edge of his makeshift bed in the converted garage, Darius stared at the ceiling fan spinning weakly overhead. His cousin's laughter echoed from the house. Something about a game, a TikTok clip, normal life. He laid back and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he'd apply at the overnight stockroom again. Maybe the delivery gig if they'd take him. But deep down, a thought lingered stubbornly. I did the right thing, even if it cost me everything. And somewhere across town, a woman who called herself Suen sat in a quiet office, scrolling through security footage, eyes narrowing as she watched the moment an old beat-up Nissan parked on her lot, and the young man that walked out of it caught her attention. The phone rang at exactly 8:02 a.m. Darius Cole was halfway through brushing his teeth when he heard it. He wiped his mouth with the back of his wrist and reached for his cracked phone, squinting at the unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello. A bright, precise voice answered on the other end. Is this Mr. Cole? Darius Cole? Yes, he said, instantly guarded. This is Leah Wynn, assistant to Ms. Cynthia Marlowe. She'd like to meet with you. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. sharp. Same building you visited Monday. Darius blinked. I think you might have the wrong person. I had an interview at Kenslow Systems Monday, but... You were late. We know, Leah said without missing a beat. This meeting isn't through HR. Bring yourself. Nothing else. And with that, she hung up. Darius stared at the phone for a full minute, heartbeat slow and heavy in his ears. Cynthia Marlowe? He didn't know much about the woman. No one really did. All he'd heard over the years was that she was ruthless when she needed to be, brilliant when she chose to speak, and allergic to cameras. Even Kenslow's own website didn't have a picture of her. Just a line about founder-led innovation built on purpose. Darius wasn't sure what unnerved him more, the mystery or the fact that she knew his name. The next morning, he wore the same outfit from Monday. He'd ironed the shirt twice, scrubbed his shoes again, and took the bus 2 hours early just in case the transit gods tried to sabotage him. By 8:42, he was in the lobby of the sleek, glass-paneled Kenslow Systems headquarters, heart thudding as he gave his name to the front desk. The receptionist tapped a few keys, then nodded. You'll be meeting on the executive level. Take the elevator to the top floor. Someone will meet you there. He stepped inside the elevator alone. Watch the digital numbers climb. 12, 14, 17. Exec. The doors opened to a quiet hallway bathed in soft light, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. The silence up here was unnerving. No ringing phones, no clicking heels, just the faint hum of power and money moving behind closed doors. A woman with a short pixie cut and a tablet in hand stepped toward him. Mr. Cole? Follow me, please. She didn't ask him to wait. She didn't offer coffee. She just opened a walnut door with a frosted pane and gestured him inside. The office was big, but not ostentatious. A broad desk, some leather chairs, clean bookshelves. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto a panoramic view of Bakersfield's industrial edge. And standing there, in high heels at the window, was her. Same woman from the road. Same sharp eyes. But this time, she was in a tailored navy suit with a silk scarf tied loosely around her neck. Come in, Darius, she said without turning. He stepped in slowly, unsure whether to sit, speak, or salute. She turned and gave a small smile. You didn't know who I was. That was the point. He swallowed. You were testing me? No, she said, walking behind the desk. The car really broke down, and I really had a pitch I missed because of it. So why am I here? Cynthia studied him for a long moment before answering. I watched the security camera footage and saw you. You were late to a job interview. From the timestamps, it's obvious why. So I decided to have this conversation with you personally. Darius said nothing. She sat down and gestured toward the chair opposite her. He sat slowly. I started Kenslow Systems 23 years ago out of a storage unit and a 100-page binder I printed at a public library, she began. I know what it means to be overlooked, underestimated, and shut out. What I don't tolerate in this building is entitlement. What I reward is character. She leaned forward. You showed up for someone when there was nothing in it for you. No spotlight. No credit. No guarantee. Even when you knew it might cost you an interview. Darius looked down at his hands. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. Exactly, she said. Then she slid a folder across the desk. Inside were documents labeled Community Logistics Innovation Team, Temporary Placement Agreement. He frowned. What is this? A 3-week trial. You'll work under Devin Crane, our Community Ops Director. You'll shadow our team, solve real-world problems, handle site visits, and get your hands dirty. If your character on that road was real, prove it. Darius glanced up sharply. This isn't a job offer? No, she said bluntly. It's an opportunity. A test. And yes, there will be people who think you don't belong. People who ask what gives you the right to be in the room. He clenched his jaw. I've heard that before. Good, she said. You'll know how to handle it. She stood and walked to the window again. We're not a charity, Mr. Cole. We don't hand out positions to make ourselves feel good. If you succeed here, it'll be because you earned it. Not because you helped me out of a bind. Darius nodded. He understood. Why me, though? He asked quietly. She turned. Because in the worst parts of this world, where everything is speeding past and everyone is too busy to care, you stopped. And that still counts for something. Darius stood. Then I won't waste it. Cynthia Marlowe smiled. You start Monday. Outside, in the same lobby that had once dismissed him without blinking, Darius walked with a new kind of weight in his steps. Not heaviness, but responsibility. Something had shifted. And even though he didn't know what waited for him inside those next 3 weeks, he knew one thing for sure. He'd shown up for someone else. And now someone had shown up for him. From the moment Darius stepped into the 4th-floor bullpen, he could feel the doubt in the air. The room was all polished concrete floors, glass-walled pods, and people who looked like they'd walked out of startup documentaries. Blazers over hoodies, biometric lanyards, designer sneakers that had never seen a drop of dirt. They didn't look up when he arrived. Not really. Just side eyes and quiet glances that said, "Who's he?" He was introduced as a temp on rotation. But the way some of them stiffened, it was clear they'd already heard about him. No formal degree. No elite internship. Just a name whispered through the halls after Cynthia Marlowe's personal involvement. Instant suspicion. Devin Crane greeted him with a handshake colder than the office AC. Tall, angular, with a clipped British accent that turned every sentence into a challenge. Cole, right? You'll be shadowing me for the next 3 weeks. Logistics innovation. Let's see if you're more than a Marlowe experiment. Darius smiled slightly. Happy to be here. I'm sure you are. Devin didn't wait for a response. He turned and started walking. Fast. The work was a mess of acronyms and chaos. Routing algorithms that looked clean on paper, but failed in the field. Community solar panels stuck in transit because of warehouse mislabels. A whole school's shipment of refurbished tablets rerouted 3 towns over by accident, leaving kids staring at blank whiteboards. Darius didn't say much. He just observed. Took notes, then started asking quiet, specific questions the others weren't asking. Why do we rely on just one driver in that region? Who's double-checking the delivery manifests before upload? Why are we pushing updates from HQ instead of letting the community teams do it locally? Devin never answered directly. He'd just glance at him like he was annoyed Darius had noticed. 2 weeks in, the tension hit a breaking point. A solar microgrid slated to power 34 homes on the city's south side, the pilot site of the Lift Forward Community Energy Plan, was hours from going live. And the final delivery of critical converters hadn't arrived. Darius heard it through Devin's headset as the team tried to troubleshoot it live. Warehouse says the boxes are there. Driver says it was already delivered. Coordinator on-site says nothing arrived. Devin paced, muttering to the team, "We'll have to reschedule the launch. Delay it. Worst case, cancel the PR run. But something in Darius's gut said it wasn't that complicated. He pulled up the manifests from the regional drop site, cross-referenced with delivery logs. And there it was. The box was scanned out to the wrong district, 20 miles west, near the old depot that Kenslow no longer used for staging. By the time Devon noticed Darius scrolling, Darius was already pulling on his jacket. "Where are you going?" Devon asked, arms crossed. "To go get the converters," Darius said simply. "And what makes you think you can just—" "It's got to be done and I can do it," Darius said. "Don't reroute the press team yet." Devon's expression soured. "This isn't a race for brownie points, Cole." Darius didn't reply. He was already out the door. The depot was a building tucked behind an overgrown lot. Darius met the tired-looking warehouse manager and got him to get the roll-up doors opened. And there they were, 3 heavy-duty crates, still wrapped, the shipping labels faded but legible. He borrowed a company van, loaded them himself, and drove across the city through traffic, potholes, and a thunderstorm building like a slow grudge. When he pulled up to the community site, the volunteers were already packing up. The project coordinator, a woman named Trina, looked ready to cry. "I thought it was over," she said. "Not yet," Darius said, cracking open the van doors. They unloaded everything in the rain. No spotlight, no press, no one watching. The lights flickered on just before sunset. He waited to see if they'd stay on. They did. Then he got back in the van and drove back across town. The next morning, he showed up like usual. Didn't mention the fix. Didn't correct the report someone else filed about last-minute recovery. Didn't tell anyone he'd stayed up until 2 a.m. inventorying the new rollout crates to prevent it from happening again. He just moved on. 3 days later, Cynthia Marlowe called him into her office. Same clean desk. Same sharp gaze. She held a tablet in one hand. On the screen, photos of the community site lit up, a time-stamped shot of Darius hauling crates in the rain. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't smile. "Why didn't you mention the saved rollout?" Darius shifted in his seat. Doing it mattered more than talking about it. She looked at him for a long time. Then she set the tablet down. "Most people," she said, "would have posted a selfie, sent an all-team email, and reminded me 3 times in case I missed it." He shrugged. "It's not about the photo." "No," she said. "It's about the light staying on." For the first time, she smiled, not just politely, but like someone who saw exactly what she was hoping for. "You've got 1 week left in this trial," she said. "Use it wisely." Darius nodded, stood, and left the room. He didn't know what came next. But whatever it was, he'd be ready. The sun filtered through the oversized windows of Cynthia Marlowe's corner office, draping gold across the dark wood and clean steel. She stood with her back to Darius, arms folded as she stared down at the city below like it was both her canvas and her opponent. When she finally turned, it wasn't with ceremony. No grand gestures. Just a small, steady smile. "You handled the trial well," she said. Darius remained standing, hands at his sides. "I just did what needed to be done." Her smile widened a fraction. "Good. Because I didn't build this company by waiting for people to prove themselves on paper." She walked to her desk, pulled out a single folder, and slid it across. A letterhead bearing the name Kenslow Systems. And underneath, an offer. Full-time position. Project strategy lead. Mentorship under Marlowe herself. A long-term leadership track. It didn't feel real. Darius stared at the paper, then up at her. "This is a lot." "No," she said, sitting. "This is the beginning. What comes after is the work." He nodded once. Then again, slower. "I'm in. I knew you would be." She leaned forward slightly. "But never forget this one thing. Not everyone's going to clap when you walk into a room." Her voice didn't change, but the air around it sharpened. "Some people in this building still think titles mean more than character. That fancy degrees and clean resumes are the only way in. You'll need thick skin. And a long memory." Darius held her gaze. "I've had both most of my life." She nodded in approval. "Then you'll do fine." They didn't shake hands. No signatures, no confetti. Just mutual understanding. The kind you didn't need to perform. Later that week, he entered the boardroom for the first time not as a guest, not as someone waiting outside, but with a seat at the long, gleaming table. He wore a tailored jacket Jalen had lent him, shoes polished to a mirror. There were at least 15 people in the room, project managers, finance leads, external consultants. And across the table, Devin Crane. The same stone face. The same unreadable stare. But this time, no smirk. Just silence. When Cynthia introduced Darius, she didn't add backstory. She simply said, "This is Darius Cole. He's earned his place here." A few people nodded. One or two offered polite smiles. Devin said nothing. Darius didn't flinch. He didn't need their applause. He just opened his notepad and joined the discussion. Hours later, as the meeting broke and the suits scattered into side rooms and elevator banks, Darius slipped his tablet into his satchel and headed down to the lobby. The marble floors reflected the soft glow of pendant lights overhead. As he passed the glass entrance, he spotted a young intern, maybe 19, barely holding 2 boxes full of product samples. She wobbled as a folder slipped, then bent down and dropped another box entirely. People passed by. No one stopped. Darius didn't hesitate. He walked straight to her, knelt, and gathered the scattered folders. "You okay?" he asked. The girl looked flustered. "Yeah, I was trying to get these 2. "No stress," he said, gently lifting one of the boxes. "Where are we heading?" "Floor 2, marketing." "Let's go." She blinked. "You don't have to." "I know." They stepped into the elevator together. She clutched her box like a shield. "Thanks," she whispered after a pause. "I'm Tanya." "Darius," he replied. Something in her expression shifted. Recognition. "You're the guy who rerouted the solar shipment, right?" He didn't answer directly. Just smiled. "That's what they say." As the doors opened and they walked toward the department suite, she turned to him again. "I heard about you," she said. "From someone in the logistics team. They said you weren't supposed to make it past the trial, but you did." He shrugged, adjusting the box in his arms. "I wasn't supposed to make it a lot of places." At the door, he handed the box over and nodded. "Keep going," he said. "The right people are watching. Always." Outside, the city moved like a heartbeat. Buses hissing to the curb. People cutting through intersections like flowing data. Darius paused just beyond the revolving doors of Kenslow's glass fortress and looked up for a moment. He thought of where he'd started. The busted truck. The stranded stranger. The people who doubted. The ones who didn't. He smiled quietly to himself. And then he walked forward, into whatever was next. That was Darius' story. He didn't speak the loudest, but his actions spoke for him. Would you have helped if you didn't know who she was? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Because the people who matter, they're always watching even when we're not aware.